Jane Wolery. Jane is our special guest tonight, and we're going to learn a lot about the 4-H Foundation. The 4-H Foundation is one of the best organizations that we have here in the state of Montana. They provide funds for various young students, I believe up to 18 years old. We're going to learn about that and learn what you could possibly do to help the 4-H Foundation. Jane, 4-H Foundation. I've heard a lot about it. Tell us what you do and what the foundation does.
Well, Jack, the 4-H Foundation, 4-H program is multifaceted, of course, and so there are county-level programs and statewide programs. The 4-H Foundation helps raise the funds and manage the funds that are donated to help support the program all across the state. And so we pledge $150,000 to the program operation budget of the Montana 4-H Center. That makes 4-H able to happen in the way that we know it today across this state.
And how many kids are involved with 4-H in the state?
Well, in the state of Montana, we have about 17,000 youth across the state who are affected by the program. Enrolled members in traditional clubs, what many people might think of as traditional 4-H, are around 9,000 4-H members across the state. So quite a few, and you know, we do have an outdoor education program. So that wildlife and hunting, there'd be lots of opportunity for youth today to be involved in 4-H in that way, as well as STEM projects and so many other ways. So,
question from Valentine. Jane, this person would like to know where the funding comes from for the 4-H Foundation.
Oh. We are so fortunate at the 4-H Foundation. Our funding comes from all kinds of places. It's generous benefactors mostly. We have sometimes people will leave an endowment to us to help fund things for 4-H across the state. We have yearly donors. We have a 4-H alum who reached out, and because the program has been so impactful to her, she asked if we would invoice her monthly so she wouldn't miss a month while she builds an endowment to support national travel for 4-H youth, because that's one of the things that we do is provide that. So the funding comes from all kinds of sources, from corporate sponsorships to individuals sending a check every year or reoccurring donations that are through our website. So lots of different places.
So, say you're in Saunders County or in Blaine County, how do you allocate the foundation funds to those programs? Do the county 4-H agents actually apply for those dollars, or is it automatically given to separate programs?
So the funding is very interesting. We don't directly give necessarily to a county 4-H program in that way, but we support all of the program efforts from the program specialists in the 4-H Center, which in turn makes 4-H be able to exist across the state. We also have a couple of endowments that support programming out, and I love this because there's one called a People Partner Grant, and the funding from that allows youth to apply when they see a problem in their community that they think they have a solution for. And there's always going to be a little bit of expense to that. So they can apply for funding through the Montana 4-H Foundation. They can get that experience of solving the problems they see right in their own communities. And it's phenomenal. So we have all kinds of different ways that youth are affected. And then, of course, the statewide leadership programs like Montana 4-H Congress. Many people would recognize that as one of our premier programs.
I like that problem solving. I think that's a great program. I think we ought to promote that a little bit more, but that's my own personal opinion. From Billings, this person would like to know, are there any specific programs or goals that the foundation is starting to look at or they'd like to invest in?
Well, we want to, of course, maintain what we have, but a goal that I've had is looking at our program specialist area. The outdoor ed program that I mentioned earlier, we have a less than part-time program specialist for that, and the 4-H Foundation is covering the entirety of that position right now. And if we look at the numbers of our enrollment, more than half of the youth are enrolled in outdoor ed types of programming, from wildlife to fish fishing, we have a shooting sports program, archery, all those different programs. And it's been a hugely impactful program across the state. So the numbers would lead us to think that that would be a great program to gain support for. Plus, as I drove down here today, we are an outdoor state. We have a lot of enthusiasts about our state, and so there may be somebody out there who just doesn't know, hasn't been invited yet to help fund that program, whether that's through an endowment for that position, or if that's helping support that $33,000 that we, through the foundation, put toward that program. But our students have gone on. We had an Olympian this year. We've had several Olympians come out of that shooting sports program. I know people who have had full ride scholarships because of it. They become those people who catapult into the careers of wildlife management, and they go on to serve in the military and are part of our law enforcement. And so this is a great program that I just think somebody out there knows somebody that we need to get introduced to who has a passion around that and can support it.
You know, we had the 4-H director on a year or two ago, and at that time, post-COVID, we were short of leaders, countywide 4-H leaders. And I know student numbers are staying up there, but have the leaders' numbers improved? And say if I wanted to be a leader, which I'm too old to do that, but
You are not.
I shouldn't have said that. How would you become a 4-H leader?
The best place to start is going to your local MSU Extension office and talking to them about how you want to be involved and many different things. And I would love to tell you that we have volunteers who are in their 90s and who are gaining as much from the program as the youth are from them. So it is never too late to give back in whatever capacity you have the capability to give. So I would really encourage people for that volunteer piece, because one of the things we know in terms of protecting our youth is a meaningful relationship with another caring adult in their lives can be powerfully influential.
This is a good question. Caller from Fairfield actually has two questions. Can Jane talk about how 4-H helps our youth in developing career opportunities? And I guarantee you it does. So you want to touch on that?
Well, certainly. I was an extension agent for more than 25 years in Montana and in Wyoming a few years, and before that I was a school counselor. So I have been long interested in how people get to the careers that they get to, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to ask a 4-H alum in their current career to find out if they're not using any skills that they learned in 4-H, because I think so many 4-H members, this is how they find their spark, this is how they move into their career, this is how they try out things that maybe aren't available to them in school. And I think we talk about the spark for youth. I just have visited with a couple of 4-H alum who made their way through college on a 4-H photography project. So they built a 4-H photography business. And I visited with a volunteer the other day who has built an entire cottage food industry business. And she said, it's because of 4-H that I was able to do this. And I said, but you weren't even a member in 4-H. She said, I know, I joined as a parent and volunteer when my kids started. And she learned how to do food demonstrations and different things and has a thriving business now because of it. So I just know over the years, the 4-H alum who I've worked with, they're back in my community serving in so many capacities that I can tie right to 4-H.
You know, I'm going to mention a previous program we had when our extension plant pathologist was on, and her daughter was on that night. And she brought a rabbit along. And that rabbit sat at the edge of that desk for the entire program. We had more calls for the 11-year-old guest than we had for anybody else on the panel. And she was so articulate in answering them. And that sold me right there on 4-H. It is a really great program for youngsters.
Well, I think of our 4-H fair format, and you brought the pamphlet from Gallatin County, but our 4-H fairs use an interview format. So students have to come in, 4-H members come in with a project that they've done, and they speak to somebody they don't know, and they identify what they've done well, what they could have done better, how they got help, what they'd do next time, and think of the skills in interviewing with a potential employer, when you can evaluate that for yourself, I know what my strengths are, I know where I need to make improvements. Employers tell me all the time when they have 4-H members interview, they can tell it right away that they had that skill. And I think it's so important to help youth explore and find new areas of interest so that they can move into careers.
That's a good reason to support the 4-H Foundation. There's no doubt about that.
So speaking of daughters, what's the youngest age you can enroll youth in a 4-H program?
So our Cloverbud program is ages 5 to 8. October 1st is the age break there, and then the 4-H program is 8 to 18 by October 1st, and so we're moving into that time of year. Do you have one that can enroll yet?
We have to wait a few more years.
I thought maybe. I thought I picked up on that.
Yeah.
And mine
Start them early.
Yeah.
and mine are moving into their college and career years, so yeah.
Jane, Facebook comment. My kids are 4-H alumni. How can they or current members support the ongoing work of the foundation? Here's an opportunity to tell people how they can support the foundation.
Well, it's wonderful that alum think about that, and we do have many of our supporters are 4-H alum. But if you think about how many people have been in 4-H over the years and who are donating, I think we have a lot of room to grow in terms of that. So people who want to donate can go to our website. They can set up a recurring electronic donation. They can send a check to the Montana 4-H Foundation. They'll find our address online, and then they'll start receiving some of our information and continue that way. And like I mentioned, if they want to start building towards something that's important to them, we are happy to invoice or help them in any way with that. But also, I think many of our ag producers are 4-H alum.
True.
And I was thinking about one of the donors to our program was a a couple who farmed on the High Line and did not have any heirs. And so they decided to give their farm, the lease money off their farm comes to us, and they separated that into several different charitable organizations. So I think there are many ways, maybe not all of our alum, this caller may have younger alum, and they're just starting in a career and wanting to get started. If they could give $4 a week, $40 a month, $400 a year, if people who are older and conceivably maybe have built a little bit more to be able to give, then they can generously give $400 and $4,000. But some of our ag families could be thinking about ways that they can manage an estate, especially if they don't have heirs. I think about if you don't have anyone to leave it to and you want to leave it to young people, wouldn't 4-H be an answer?
Yeah, I agree.
Sounds like you
It's a
should
great program.
work with Marcia Gooding on that.
Marcia Getting is on our board. So if
Okay.
people do want us to come talk to them, if they're thinking about it, and there's no hard sell or hard pressure or anything, but if they are considering an estate plan that includes 4-H, I would love to get around the kitchen table with them and talk about what that could do for our program in perpetuity.
Okay. Seeing what 4-H has done, I encourage people, and no gift is too small.
No.
So I like that. Question from Forsyth. It's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to this. I'm not sure if anybody on the panel can answer this. But this person says, I'm impressed with 4-H. I'd like to know when it started and where it started. So, Jane, anybody know? I do not.
So I believe that 4-H started in 1902, roughly, as far as the formal youth programs, and in Ohio area. In Montana, we celebrated the 100th year of 4-H in Montana in 2012, so we're well past our 100th year. So 4-H was started around 1912 in this state, and it's always been tied to the land-grant university and the extension programs in those different states.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time, and when they instituted this, it didn't take long to take off. I go back many years, and even back then, they tried to get me into 4-H. I didn't have time. There was other things like pheasant hunting and catfishing that was more important.
Well, I would like to mention again that we have lots of programs, and our outdoor ed program is really great, that for those who have a really different interest, there is a Design Your Own program. So it used to be called Self-Determined, now it's called Design Your Own, and what a great way to encourage young people to be self-learners and self-educators than to set their own goals for their project and to look into their own research. And then, you know, I had a 4-H member who had a self-determined project with violin because he was a violinist. And then he set all these goals with that, and he did a 4-H demonstration, went to Montana 4-H Congress with that, finished in the top 10 as far as I remember, might have gone on to National 4-H Congress with that very project. So
Amazing.
design your own.
A really basic question
Yes.
I should have asked at the beginning. What does 4-H stand for?
The 4-H's are head, heart, hands, and health.
Okay.
It's part of our pledge.
Yep.
And the end of that pledge is for our club, for our community, for our country, and for our world. And so we repeat that at every 4-H event. And I hope and I see the evidence that that sinks in, that our members are really dedicated to serving others. And in fact, there's been a longitudinal study by independent researchers of the 4-H program nationwide, and 4-H members are 4 times as likely to contribute to their communities and serve their communities. They're twice as likely to have a goal to be a good leader in their lifetime. So,
Well said. And I want to bring out something about designing your own 4-H program. When we had Abby Burrows, Mary Burrows' daughter, on with her rabbit called something, I don't remember what it was, cute rabbit. We had a caller from Dillon call in and volunteer to start a 4-H program for news broadcasting, radio broadcasting,
Yes.
because she owned several radio stations in the state, and she volunteered to start a 4-H program there. So reaching out, yeah, there's a lot of opportunities there.
right. Well, as I look across at the people running this program, there was a program that ran for many years called Vid Kids. And it was out of Marr County, and it was a volunteer who had that enthusiasm, and they produced several promotional videos for 4-H. So,
This came from Kalispell, and this person says, and probably correct, their perception is that 4-H is focused on agriculture, but it's broader than that. I think you've mentioned that, but it is not only agriculture.
it is not only agriculture. I would love to dispel that myth. I visited with people when I was traveling who said, oh, I wasn't in 4-H because I didn't live on a farm. And like, oh my goodness, I would bet half of our membership does not live on a farm or ranch. There are so many ways to be involved. I was thinking about that career aspect of 4-H, and we had a group who did a bioscience program that was hosted here on the MSU campus. It was part of grant-funded education, and for 5 years, students from across the state came through the 4-H program to learn neuroscience and metabolomics and all these different other infectious disease, and it was a phenomenal program. And that did not distinguish that you had to raise an animal, raise a crop. Ag is a big part of our state, and it's a big opportunity to expose youth to what it takes to raise livestock, to raise crops, where food comes from. And sometimes there are partnerships where kids who live in town are housing an animal with someone who lives out of town. So there are so many ways to do 4-H. I just hope that that would not deter someone from enrolling their youth. The leadership aspect of the program is phenomenal.